Today's deep dive into one of the most profound and mysterious questions humanity has ever pondered. Does consciousness truly require a brain? Picture this on a clear night. You gaze up at the stars, awed by the vastness of the universe. But then, you realize there's an equally infinite universe within you. Your thoughts, emotions, memories, and experiences. What is this awareness that perceives the world around us? Is it just a product of the intricate electrical activity in our brain? Or does it transcend the boundaries of the physical? In this video, we'll unravel the ancient wisdom of Buddhism and explore its unique take on consciousness. You'll discover how Buddhist philosophy offers insights into the five aggregates, the illusion of self, and the luminous nature of the mind. We'll also journey through compelling stories of monks navigating deep meditative states, delve into the mystical Bardo states, and even touch on modern scientific parallels like neuroplasticity. By the end, you might find yourself rethinking everything you thought you knew about the nature of awareness. Before we embark on this fascinating exploration, I want to invite you to support this channel. If you're curious about philosophy, spirituality, or simply seeking answers to life's biggest questions, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. And if you find this content thought-provoking, share it with someone who would love to join the discussion. Your support fuels our journey into these profound topics and helps grow this community of seekers and thinkers. So, are you ready to question the boundaries of your own consciousness? Let's dive in. Buddhism provides a profound and unique perspective on the nature of consciousness, challenging the notion that it is purely a byproduct of brain activity. Unlike the conventional scientific approach, which often ties consciousness to electrical impulses and neural pathways, Buddhist philosophy suggests a deeper, more interconnected understanding of awareness that transcends the physical. This perspective is rooted in the framework of the five aggregates, or khandhas, which deconstruct the concept of self into dynamic, ever-changing processes. These aggregates form feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness are not fixed entities but are in constant flux. Much like the components of a chariot that together form a functional whole but do not constitute an independent entity. Take the aggregate of form, which includes the physical body and the brain. Buddhism acknowledges the importance of the brain in facilitating interaction with the world, yet it does not equate consciousness solely with the brain's activity. Instead, it views the brain as a condition that supports the arising of consciousness, much like sunlight and water support the growth of a plant. The second aggregate, feeling, encompasses the range of sensations we experience: pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. These feelings arise in response to stimuli but are distinct from perception. The third aggregate, which involves recognizing and labeling objects or experiences. Together, these aggregates, along with mental formations and consciousness, create the illusion of a stable self. An illusion that Buddhism teaches is the root of much of human suffering. This interconnectedness extends to the concept of dependent origination, which explains how all phenomena arise in dependence on other phenomena. For instance, the flame of a candle does not exist independently but depends on the wax, wick, and oxygen. Similarly, consciousness arises based on conditions and is not a standalone entity. The Buddha used this principle to illustrate the impermanent and interdependent nature of all things, offering a path to liberation by understanding and breaking the cycle of suffering perpetuated by ignorance and craving. Rebirth, another cornerstone of Buddhist thought, often raises questions about its compatibility with the principle of non-self. Unlike the idea of a soul migrating from one body to another, rebirth in Buddhism is likened to the flame passed from one candle to another. There is continuity without a fixed entity being transferred. This continuity is shaped by karma, the intentional actions that create imprints influencing future experiences. A relatable example can be seen in the way habits shape our lives. Just as repeated actions form patterns, karmic imprints shape the stream of consciousness over lifetimes. This perspective reframes death not as an end but as a transition within an ongoing process. The luminous mind, described in Buddhist texts as inherently radiant and pure, provides another dimension to understanding consciousness. This luminosity is not a physical light, but a quality of awareness that can shine through when obscurations like greed, hatred, and delusion are cleared. Imagine a cloudy sky. The sun is always present, but its light is hidden by the clouds. Similarly, the mind's inherent purity is often obscured by mental afflictions. Practices like meditation aim to clear these clouds, revealing the mind's natural clarity and wisdom. This concept resonates with modern mindfulness practices that focus on cultivating awareness and compassion, suggesting that the potential for enlightenment exists within everyone. Near-death experiences, NDEs, and deep meditative states further challenge the materialistic view of consciousness as entirely brain-dependent. While neuroscience often attributes NDEs to chemical processes or brain activity during critical moments, the vivid awareness reported by individuals who have undergone such experiences raises intriguing questions. Similarly, meditative states described in Buddhist literature, such as the formless jhanas, offer glimpses of boundless awareness that transcend ordinary sensory perception. These accounts, while not definitive proof, suggest that consciousness may have dimensions beyond the physical body. The Tibetan Buddhist teachings on the Bardo states provide a detailed map of consciousness beyond death. These transitional states between death and rebirth are described as experiences of pure awareness, unconstrained by the physical body. For example, the Chikai Bardo is said to involve an experience of clear light, representing unconditioned awareness. Such descriptions, though specific to Tibetan Buddhism, offer profound insights into the continuity of consciousness and emphasize the importance of mental preparation for death. By cultivating mindfulness and virtuous qualities, individuals can navigate these states with greater clarity and peace, much like a traveler equipped with a reliable map. The implications of these teachings extend beyond the metaphysical and into the practical. Recognizing the illusion of a fixed self can transform the way we live, fostering compassion and reducing fear of death. For instance, the concept of interbeing, popularized by Vietnamese Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh, highlights the interconnectedness of all beings. This understanding encourages us to act with kindness and empathy, as harming others ultimately harms ourselves. Consider the ripple effect of small acts of kindness. A simple gesture of compassion can inspire others, creating a chain of positivity that extends far beyond the initial act. Meditation and mindfulness are practical tools for applying these insights in daily life. By observing the arising and passing of thoughts and sensations, we can gain direct insight into impermanence and weaken our attachment to the illusion of self. Loving kindness meditation, which involves cultivating positive feelings toward oneself and others, exemplifies this approach. Imagine sitting quietly and mentally offering good wishes to a loved one, a neutral acquaintance, and even someone you find challenging. This practice not only fosters compassion, but also breaks down barriers created by ego and attachment. Ethical conduct, another pillar of Buddhist practice, complements meditation by creating a foundation for a peaceful mind. Acting with integrity and compassion reduces inner conflict and generates positive karmic imprints, shaping future experiences in a way that aligns with the path to liberation. For example, choosing to speak kindly and truthfully, even in difficult situations, not only benefits others, but also cultivates a sense of inner harmony. Ultimately, these teachings invite us to live with greater awareness and intentionality. By embracing the impermanent and interconnected nature of existence, we can approach life's challenges with resilience and wisdom. This perspective shifts our focus from self-centered pursuits to genuine connections with others and the world around us. In doing so, we move closer to the realization of the luminous mind and the boundless potential for awakening inherent within all beings. Buddhism offers a transformative lens through which we can understand consciousness, challenging traditional materialistic views that equate it solely with the brain. Central to Buddhist philosophy is the concept of the Five Aggregates, or khandhas, which dismantle the idea of a fixed, unchanging self. These aggregates form feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness describe the dynamic interplay that constitutes human experience. Each aggregate functions as a component of our existence, none of which independently forms a self. For instance, the aggregate of form represents our physical body, including the brain and nervous system, essential for interacting with the world, but not the source of consciousness itself. Feeling, the second aggregate, encompasses the sensations we experience in response to stimuli, whether pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. When we taste a sweet dessert, the sensation of sweetness is a feeling, distinct from perception, which is the process of labeling that dessert as a cupcake or ice cream. Perception works alongside mental formations, the aggregate encompassing thoughts, emotions, and volitional impulses. For example, seeing a dog might trigger fear if past experiences have associated dogs with danger. Consciousness, the final aggregate, acts as the knowing aspect that experiences all of these. It is not a fixed entity but a process, continuously arising and passing away. Together, these aggregates create an ever-changing, interconnected experience, much like how individual parts of a car wheels, engine, and body combine to function as a vehicle without existing as a singular, independent entity. Dependent origination, another cornerstone of Buddhist philosophy, further illuminates this interdependence. This principle explains that all phenomena arise dependent on conditions, forming a web of cause and effect. Consciousness does not exist in isolation but is shaped by myriad factors, akin to how a seed requires soil, water, and sunlight to grow. The Buddha illustrated this interdependence by likening the mind-body complex to the sound of a lute, which arises from the interaction of its strings, body, and the player's touch. Similarly, consciousness arises and changes in response to its conditions, without a permanent self underpinning it. This understanding of consciousness has profound implications for how we view death and rebirth. Rebirth, from a Buddhist perspective, is not the migration of a soul but a continuation of the process of consciousness influenced by karma, our intentional actions. A familiar analogy is a flame passing from one candle to another. While the flame continues, it is not the same flame, nor is it entirely separate. In daily life, this concept mirrors how our habits shape who we become. For example, a person who consistently practices kindness develops a disposition of warmth and empathy, just as karmic actions shape the continuity of consciousness across lifetimes. This perspective reframes death as a transition, not an end, emphasizing that the process of becoming is influenced by past actions but not determined by a permanent identity. Beyond the physical body, Buddhism introduces the concept of the luminous mind, inherently pure and radiant, yet often obscured by mental afflictions such as greed, hatred, and delusion. This radiance is akin to a clear sky covered by clouds. The sun's brilliance is always present but hidden. Through practices like meditation, these obscurations can be cleared, allowing the mind's natural luminosity to shine. This idea resonates with modern mindfulness practices, which cultivate clarity and compassion by encouraging present moment awareness. For instance, a person struggling with stress may find relief through meditation, gradually reducing reactive patterns and uncovering a sense of inner peace. Experiences like near-death experiences, NDEs, and deep meditative states further challenge the notion that consciousness is confined to the brain. Individuals who have undergone NDEs often report vivid awareness, a sense of detachment from the body, and profound interconnectedness. While neuroscientific explanations attribute these experiences to brain activity, such as oxygen deprivation, they open the door to exploring consciousness beyond physical constraints. Similarly, advanced meditators describe states of boundless awareness or unity with the universe, suggesting that the mind can transcend ordinary sensory limitations. These accounts align with the concept of the luminous mind, offering glimpses into the potential expansiveness of consciousness. The Tibetan Buddhist teachings on the Bardo states provide another framework for understanding consciousness beyond the physical realm. These states, which occur between death and rebirth, are described as experiences of pure awareness, unbounded by the body. The first Bardo, the Chikai Bardo, involves an encounter with clear light, representing unconditioned awareness. This stage underscores the importance of mental preparation for death, as a cultivated mind is more likely to navigate these states with clarity and peace. Consider the analogy of a traveler. Someone familiar with their route is far less likely to become lost than someone embarking on an uncharted journey. Similarly, Buddhist practices prepare the mind to face death with composure and insight. The teachings on consciousness also challenge the deeply ingrained illusion of self, or anatta. This concept does not deny existence, but rather exposes the constructed nature of what we perceive as me or mine. The illusion of a permanent self fuels attachment, craving, and aversion, perpetuating the cycle of suffering. For instance, many of us define ourselves by external achievements or possessions, believing they solidify our identity. Yet, when these are lost, the sense of self often crumbles, leading to distress. Recognizing that the self is not fixed but interdependent can alleviate this suffering. It fosters compassion by revealing our interconnectedness with others, encouraging us to act with kindness and empathy. A relatable example is the act of sharing resources during a crisis. Understanding our shared vulnerabilities and needs can inspire collective action, highlighting how interconnectedness supports survival and well-being. Buddhist practices for cultivating peace and compassion center on meditation and ethical conduct. Meditation, particularly mindfulness and loving-kindness practices, helps unravel the illusion of self and develop equanimity. Imagine sitting quietly, observing the flow of your thoughts and sensations without judgment. Over time, this practice reveals the impermanence of these experiences, weakening attachments and fostering inner calm. Loving kindness meditation, in which we extend well wishes to ourselves and others, nurtures positive mental states and breaks down barriers of separation. For instance, envision sending thoughts of kindness to a difficult coworker. This simple act can shift your perspective, transforming frustration into understanding and improving your relationship. Ethical conduct complements meditation by creating a harmonious foundation for the mind. Acting with integrity and compassion reduces inner conflict and builds positive karmic imprints, shaping future experiences. Consider a situation where someone wrongs you. Responding with patience and understanding rather than anger not only diffuses tension, but also cultivates a sense of inner peace. This approach mirrors the Buddhist principle of reducing harm and promoting kindness in all actions, laying the groundwork for a luminous mind. These teachings offer a transformative way of living, encouraging us to see beyond the boundaries of ego and embrace a deeper sense of interconnectedness. By understanding the impermanence of the self and the interdependent nature of consciousness, we can navigate life's challenges with greater wisdom and compassion. This perspective invites us to cultivate inner peace not by clinging to fleeting identities or possessions, but by aligning with the inherent luminosity of the mind and the boundless potential for awakening within us all. Buddhist teachings about consciousness align in fascinating ways with modern scientific discoveries, particularly in neuroscience. One key parallel is the concept of neuroplasticity, which refers to the brain's ability to change and adapt in response to experiences. This aligns with the Buddhist understanding that the mind is not a fixed entity but a dynamic, ever-evolving process. Just as neurons form new connections through repeated actions or thoughts, the mind shapes itself through habits and mental patterns. For example, someone who practices mindfulness consistently might notice a reduced tendency toward reactive anger over time. Neuroscience confirms that this is not merely a mental shift but a physical transformation in the brain structure. In this way, Buddhist practices offer a practical approach to reshaping the mind and fostering resilience. In daily life, mindfulness serves as a powerful tool for altering how we experience the world. Consider a situation as simple as washing dishes. For many, it's a mundane task, often rushed through while thinking about the next chore or checking a phone. However, through mindfulness, this routine act becomes an opportunity to be fully present, feeling the warmth of the water, the texture of the soap, and the motion of the hands. This shift in attention not only makes the experience more enjoyable, but also cultivates a sense of peace and clarity that extends into other parts of life. In my own experience, Practicing mindfulness during stressful moments like being stuck in traffic has transformed frustration into an opportunity to breathe deeply and observe my thoughts without judgment. This shift, while small, has a profound ripple effect on overall well-being. Stories of individuals who have embraced Buddhist practices further illustrate their transformative power. One story that resonates is of a woman who struggled with profound grief after losing her spouse. Initially overwhelmed by sorrow, she turned to meditation as a way to cope. Over time, she began to understand the Buddhist principle of impermanence, that everything, including life itself, is transient. This realization did not erase her pain, but it allowed her to accept it with greater equanimity. She started to see her grief not as a burden to be avoided, but as a natural part of the human experience. Much like the ebb and flow of ocean tides, by embracing impermanence, she found a renewed sense of peace and even joy in the memories she shared with her spouse. The flow of consciousness, often compared to a river in Buddhist teachings, offers another compelling analogy for understanding change and continuity. A river is never the same from one moment to the next. Its water flows, its shape shifts, and yet we still recognize it as a river. Similarly, our thoughts, emotions, and perceptions are in constant flux, yet we cling to the notion of a fixed self. Recognizing this impermanence can be liberating. It allows us to let go of rigid identities and approach life with greater flexibility. Imagine someone who identifies strongly with their career. Losing a job might initially feel like a loss of self, but understanding the mind's fluid nature can help them adapt, finding new paths and purposes. Buddhist philosophy also provides a powerful framework for addressing existential fears. The idea of death, for instance, often evokes deep anxiety rooted in the fear of losing one's identity or sense of self. However, from a Buddhist perspective, there is no permanent self to lose in the first place. Death is seen not as an end, but as a transition in the ongoing flow of consciousness. This understanding can profoundly reshape how we approach life. Instead of clinging to what is fleeting, we learn to embrace the present moment fully. A friend of mine, who was diagnosed with a terminal illness, found comfort in this perspective. Rather than spending her remaining time in fear, she focused on cultivating meaningful connections and living with intention. Her resilience was inspiring and a testament to the transformative power of Buddhist teachings. Interconnectedness, a central theme in Buddhism, also shapes how we live ethically in today's world. When we recognize that our actions impact not only ourselves but also others and the environment, we are more likely to act with compassion and mindfulness. A tangible example of this is the growing movement towards sustainable living. People who understand the interconnectedness of life often make choices that reduce harm, such as adopting plant-based diets, minimizing waste, or supporting ethical businesses. These actions, though small individually, contribute to a larger shift toward collective well-being. In relationships, the understanding of interconnectedness fosters empathy and patience. Consider a conflict with a coworker. From a Buddhist perspective, the other person's actions are not isolated, but arise from a web of conditioned stress, personal struggles, or past experiences. Recognizing this interdependence allows us to respond with kindness rather than judgment. I recall a time when a colleague snapped at me during a meeting. Instead of reacting defensively, I paused and later checked in with them privately. They admitted they were overwhelmed by a personal issue, and our conversation deepened our mutual understanding. This approach, rooted in interconnectedness, not only resolves conflicts but strengthens relationships. Philosophically, Buddhism offers a roadmap for navigating life's challenges with resilience. By understanding that suffering arises from clinging and aversion, we can cultivate practices that reduce these tendencies. Meditation, for instance, helps us observe our thoughts and emotions without becoming entangled in them. Imagine the mind as a clear glass of water. Each negative thought or emotion is like a handful of dirt. Instead of stirring the water by reacting impulsively, meditation teaches us to let the dirt settle, restoring clarity. In today's fast-paced world, these practices are more relevant than ever. Stress, anxiety, and burnout are common, often fueled by the relentless pursuit of success and the fear of failure. Buddhism invites us to step back and question these societal pressures. What if success is not about accumulating wealth or accolades, but about cultivating inner peace and meaningful connections? This perspective encourages a shift from external validation to internal contentment, fostering a sense of fulfillment that is not dependent on circumstances. Buddhist teachings also inspire us to approach life with curiosity and openness. Instead of fearing the unknown, we learn to embrace it as an opportunity for growth. A friend once shared how they overcame their fear of public speaking by reframing it as a chance to connect with others rather than a performance to be judged. This subtle shift in perspective transformed their anxiety into enthusiasm, illustrating the practical wisdom of Buddhist philosophy. Ultimately, the insights offered by Buddhism are not abstract concepts but tools for living more deeply and authentically. They remind us that life's beauty lies in its impermanence, that resilience comes from embracing change, and that true peace arises from recognizing our interconnectedness with all beings. These lessons, when applied, have the power to transform not only individual lives, but also the collective consciousness of our world. Buddhist teachings come alive through stories that illustrate complex concepts like dependent origination and the Bardo states. These narratives not only make abstract ideas accessible, but also show their practical relevance to daily life. For example, dependent origination, the principle that all phenomena arise based on conditions, can be understood through a simple yet profound analogy of a tree. Imagine a tree growing in a field. Its existence depends on countless factors: the soil that nourishes its roots, the sun that provides energy, the rain that quenches its thirst, and even the surrounding ecosystem that supports its life. Without these conditions, the tree would not exist. Similarly, every moment of consciousness arises from a web of interconnected causes and conditions. This understanding highlights the fragility and interdependence of existence, reminding us that nothing, including our sense of self, exists in isolation. To bring this concept into everyday life, consider a common scenario: an argument between two people. At first glance, it may seem that one person's words directly cause the other's anger. However, if we examine more deeply, the anger arises from a combination of conditions: the person's tone, the recipient's past experiences, their current mood, and even external stressors unrelated to the conversation. Recognizing this interconnectedness can help us respond with compassion rather than blame. For instance, if a friend snaps at you unexpectedly, understanding that their reaction may stem from external pressures or inner struggles allows you to approach the situation with empathy. This shift in perspective, grounded in dependent origination, can diffuse conflict and foster understanding. The Bardo states, as described in Tibetan Buddhism, offer another captivating framework for exploring consciousness. These states, which occur between death and rebirth, are portrayed as transitional phases where the mind experiences a heightened awareness unbound by physical limitations. One story that vividly illustrates the Bardo states involves a Tibetan monk who devoted his life to meditation and preparing for the moment of death. As he lay on his deathbed, surrounded by his disciples, he entered a state of profound stillness. Witnesses later described how his face radiated peace, and his body showed no signs of decay for days after his passing. According to Buddhist belief, this was a sign that the monk had entered the Chikai Bardo, experiencing the clear light of unconditioned awareness. While this account may seem extraordinary, it underscores the potential of a cultivated mind to navigate the transitions of death with clarity and equanimity. These teachings are not only for monks or advanced practitioners, they offer valuable lessons for anyone facing life's uncertainties. Consider a person grieving the loss of a loved one. The Bardo states provide a framework for understanding the journey of consciousness after death, offering comfort in the idea that the mind continues beyond the physical body. This perspective can help ease the fear of death, transforming it from a dreaded endpoint into a natural part of life's cycle. For example, a friend who recently lost her father found solace in these teachings. She began to see his passing not as an end, but as a continuation of his journey, allowing her to honor his memory with love rather than clinging to her grief. Another compelling story involves a monk's journey through deep meditative states. This monk, renowned for his discipline and insight, described his practice as a gradual peeling away of layers, obscuring the luminous mind. In one meditation retreat, he recounted an experience of profound interconnectedness, where the boundaries between himself and the world dissolved. He described it as being like a drop of water merging into the ocean, not losing his individuality, but becoming part of something vast and infinite. This experience, rooted in the formless jhanas, taught him that the mind's potential extends far beyond ordinary sensory perception. Relatable lessons can be drawn from his story. For instance, many of us feel isolated or disconnected, especially in challenging times. The monk's experience reminds us that we are never truly alone. We are part of a larger whole. This perspective can inspire small but meaningful changes in how we live. Imagine someone struggling with loneliness during a difficult period. By volunteering at a community center or simply reaching out to help a neighbor, they can experience the interconnectedness that Buddhism teaches. These actions not only alleviate their own sense of isolation, but also strengthen the bonds that hold communities together. Another narrative brings to life the concept of navigating suffering with awareness. A young woman facing a terminal illness turned to meditation to cope with her fear and pain. Initially, her practice was fraught with frustration as her mind wandered to thoughts of regret and anxiety. However, with time and guidance, she began to see her suffering not as an enemy but as a teacher. She described her pain as waves on the ocean, intense but impermanent. By observing these waves with mindfulness, she found moments of peace and even gratitude for the clarity they brought to her life. Her journey exemplifies how Buddhist practices can transform even the most challenging experiences into opportunities for growth and understanding. These stories also illuminate the role of compassion in Buddhist practice. One tale tells of a monk who, during a famine, shared his meager food supply with others in need, even as he himself went hungry. When asked why he sacrificed his own comfort, he replied that the suffering of others was no different from his own. This profound empathy, rooted in the understanding of interconnectedness, is a cornerstone of Buddhist ethics. In modern terms, this lesson can inspire acts of kindness in our own lives. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, many people demonstrated compassion by helping vulnerable neighbors with groceries or offering emotional support to those struggling with isolation. These acts, though simple, embody the Buddhist principle of alleviating suffering wherever possible. The narratives surrounding Buddhist concepts like dependent origination and the Bardo states remind us of the profound depth and practical relevance of these teachings. Whether through the quiet strength of a monk in meditation, the resilience of a grieving daughter, or the selfless compassion of a famine-stricken monk, these stories illustrate how Buddhist principles can guide us through life's complexities. They teach us to see the interconnectedness of all things, to approach challenges with awareness and compassion, and to embrace the impermanence of existence as a source of freedom rather than fear. Through these lessons, we discover that the wisdom of Buddhism is not confined to monasteries or ancient texts. It is a living, breathing practice that can transform the way we navigate the world. The teachings of Buddhism provide a roadmap for navigating the complexities of life with greater clarity, compassion, and resilience. At the heart of these teachings lies a series of practical steps that anyone can apply, regardless of their background or beliefs. Mindfulness, a cornerstone of Buddhist practice, invites us to be fully present in each moment, observing our thoughts, emotions, and sensations without judgment. Imagine sitting quietly for just 5 minutes, focusing on the rhythm of your breath. This simple act, practiced consistently, can lead to profound shifts in how we experience the world, transforming anxiety into calm and distraction into focus. By grounding ourselves in the present, we begin to see life with greater clarity, free from the distortions of past regrets and future fears. Compassion is another vital principle that not only benefits others, but also nurtures our own well-being. Consider the ripple effect of a small act of kindness, like offering a genuine smile to a stranger or helping a coworker with a task. These moments, seemingly insignificant, can spark connections that brighten both the giver's and receiver's day. Compassion extends beyond interpersonal interactions to include how we relate to ourselves. Many of us are our own harshest critics, but self-compassion, treating ourselves with the same kindness we would offer a friend, can alleviate unnecessary suffering and build resilience. For instance, if you make a mistake at work, instead of berating yourself, acknowledge that mistakes are a natural part of learning and growth. Understanding the nature of self is perhaps the most transformative aspect of Buddhist teachings. The realization that the self is not a fixed entity but a dynamic, interconnected process can fundamentally change how we relate to ourselves and the world. This insight helps us let go of rigid identities and attachments, freeing us to adapt and grow. Imagine someone who has always defined themselves by their career. Losing their job might initially feel devastating, but by understanding the impermanence of all things, they can begin to see this loss as an opportunity for reinvention. This perspective encourages us to embrace change rather than fear it, recognizing that life's challenges are not obstacles but stepping stones for personal development. Meditation and self-reflection are powerful tools for exploring consciousness and understanding the nature of self. These practices encourage us to look inward, examining the patterns of our minds and uncovering deeper truths about our existence. For example, a daily meditation practice, even as brief as 10 minutes, can reveal the impermanence of thoughts and emotions, helping us detach from negative mental states. Reflecting on questions like, who am I beyond my roles and possessions? Or, what truly matters in this moment? Can lead to profound insights that reshape how we approach life. These practices are not about escaping reality, but about engaging with it more fully, with a sense of purpose and awareness. The question, what does consciousness mean to you beyond the boundaries of the brain, invites us to expand our understanding of what it means to be alive. For many, this question might spark curiosity about the nature of awareness and its relationship to the physical body. While science often ties consciousness to neural activity, Buddhist teachings suggest a more expansive view, where consciousness is not confined to the brain but interconnected with all aspects of existence. This perspective encourages us to explore not only the depths of our own minds, but also our relationship to the world around us. It challenges us to consider how our thoughts, actions, and intentions ripple outward, shaping the reality we collectively experience. Incorporating these lessons into daily life does not require dramatic changes or extraordinary effort. It begins with small, intentional steps, pausing to breathe before reacting, offering a kind word to someone in need, or taking a moment to reflect on what truly matters. Over time, these practices can cultivate a sense of inner peace and purpose, allowing us to navigate life's complexities with greater ease. The journey toward understanding consciousness and the nature of self is not a destination but a continuous unfolding, a process of becoming more present, compassionate, and connected. These insights remind us that the answers we seek are often closer than we realize, found not in external achievements or possessions, but in the simple act of being fully alive. By exploring the depths of our consciousness and embracing the interconnectedness of all things, we open ourselves to a richer, more meaningful experience of life. This journey is both deeply personal and profoundly universal, offering the potential for growth, connection, and transformation at every step. What will you discover when you begin to explore the boundless nature of your own consciousness? We've journeyed through some of the most captivating and transformative ideas about consciousness, from the Buddhist teachings of the Five Aggregates and dependent origination to the luminous mind and the Bardo states. We've explored the interconnectedness of all things and the impermanent nature of self. These ancient philosophies remind us that consciousness may not be confined to the brain, but could be a dynamic flow shaped by countless conditions, experiences, and actions. But these ideas aren't just theoretical, they're invitations to look inward. Imagine practicing mindfulness and noticing how it transforms your perspective, finding compassion for yourself and others, or embracing the impermanence of life to reduce fear and anxiety. These lessons are as practical as they are profound, offering us a chance to live more deeply, authentically, and compassionately. Now, Let's pose that reflective question once again. What does consciousness mean to you beyond the boundaries of the brain? Is it a product of your neurons firing? Or could it be something far more expansive? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a conversation your perspective could inspire someone else. If you found this journey insightful, don't forget to hit like to support this channel. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into life's most fascinating questions. And if you think a friend or family member would appreciate these insights, go ahead and share this video with them. Thank you for joining us today. Remember, the exploration of consciousness doesn't end here, it's an ongoing journey. Until next time, keep questioning, keep reflecting, and keep exploring the vast universe within and around you. See you in the next video.